Hey, everybody, and welcome back to the Find Out podcast. We have a very special episode today. And before I introduce this guest, I'm just going to say that if you had told me 15 years ago that I would be talking to this person and that we were on the same side of the political aisle, I would have you checked into a hospital for evaluation because I just would not believe it. But this is we are very, very happy and excited to have former congressman, former talk show host, and now newly what's the word I'm looking for? A new Democrat. Joe Walsh has joined us today. So, Joe, how are you?
Tim, it's great to be with you. Luke, Zach, good to meet you both, guys.
Good to meet you too. Excited to have you.
So Joe is the perfect guest for this podcast because this podcast is obviously all about trying to move men leftward or at least to the Democratic Party side. And Joe, obviously you started out in the political world on the right. I think self-described Tea Party member, an original, maybe early on MAGA, and you have gone through quite the transformation. So we would love to hear a little bit about your journey, Joe. Like, how did you? Most people hear this and they're like, "How is that possible?" But
I got to write the book, Timmy. Yeah, I got to write the book. What a weird fucking journey from the Tea Party to the Democratic Party in 14 years. A weird, unique journey. I don't know of anyone else who's made the same journey, but these are very weird, unique times. I believe, many of you probably believe, the very thing our founding fathers feared sits in the White House right now. And he captured my former political party, the Republican Party, so easily so many years ago. I helped get him elected the first time. I was part of the Tea Party wave. Tea Party turned into MAGA. And when Tea Party turned into MAGA, I started to go south. I am going to write the book. The one constant, and guys, nothing's off limits. It's a weird fucking journey. And the old Joe Walsh did shit and said shit that would offend everybody on this podcast. The one constant from Tea Party to Democratic Party is I have always feared tyranny and excessive oppressive government. That's what the Tea Party generally was to me. And here we are 14 years later, and it's my former party that is full on authoritarian. That's how come I'm a Democrat.
I'm curious about, do you have because I also was a former Republican. I wouldn't call myself a Trump supporter, but I was not averse to Trump for a while. And I had a distinct moment where I broke away from Trump and it was clear, I can't do this anymore. Do you have that moment, or was it a gradual shift away?
Both, Zach. Yeah, it's funny. Both. Look, I voted for him in 2016. When he ran in 2016, I'm on conservative talk radio all over the country. I'm one of the bad guys. And I'll never forget that first debate in the summer of 2015 when Trump stood on that fucking stage with all the 95 other Republican candidates. Jeb, remember Jeb?
Oh my God.
And all of them. and Trump starts to speak at this debate. And my radio show, I was doing a live event for my listeners at some restaurant. And the minute Trump started to speak, all the Republican consultants from DC started calling and texting me saying, "This guy's a fucking joke, man. This is ridiculous." But everybody at that restaurant who listened to my radio show said, "This guy's awesome. Finally, there's somebody talking to me." So I knew right then and there that he was something. And it's simple, guys. I've always been a disruptive political guy. I think our political system sucks. I'm anti-establishment. The Republican Party establishment hated me. They didn't want me to go to Congress. I've always been a populist. So I understood what Trump's appeal was. His voters were my voters. They were my people. I didn't pay enough attention to who he was as a person that first time around. I figured he'll get elected. He'll play a lot of golf. Maybe he'll hire 2 good people and a few good things might get done.
Right.
The minute, Zach, that he won, and I'm all over the country and I'm on Fox News every day, I had to start paying attention to him. And a month and a half after he got sworn in 17, I came home from my radio show and I turned to my wife and I said, this ain't going to end well for us. I said, I don't know well. I don't know exactly, but the moment's going to come in the next year or so where I'm going to publicly have to turn against him. And sweetheart, we're going to fucking lose everything. Guys, when I went to Congress in 2010, I was the poorest member of Congress, the absolute poorest. And then I'm on talk radio around the country and on Fox News. And for the first time in my life, I'm making money. But I knew that was all going to go south. And Zach, primarily because I started to pay attention to him. And every time he opened his fucking mouth, he lied. And I can't have that. So I generally started speaking out against him publicly over the course of a year and a half. And I got beaten up by my conservative talk radio people, by the advertisers, by my bosses. But then the final straw for me was Helsinki in the summer of 2018, when that traitorous fuckhead stood in front of the world and said, I'm with Putin and not our own intelligence people.
Yeah,
I went on my radio show that night and I said, I am going to do everything in my power to defeat him in 2020. And at that moment, I pretty much began to lose everything.
Jesus. Yeah. I mean, it's so you didn't notice this stuff as he was running in 15, 16 as much as you did once he got in. How did you kind of miss it? Because I mean, he was lying a shit ton during his run up to the first time as well. So was it just you weren't focused on that? You were focused on the fact that he was just like every man's dream, and he came up and said things that no other politician ever said, and you just kind of missed it. Like, is that what it was?
I was a disruptive politician. I figured he's a disruptor too. I believed our politics needed disruption.
Right.
So I didn't, though, Zach, I didn't take him seriously enough. I'd never watched The Apprentice. I just figured he's a goof. And I thought, okay, when he said, I want to burn it down and blow it up and drain the swamp. Well, excuse me, that's stuff I'd been talking about for 5-6 years. Right. So I figured, okay, he's a goof and he's offensive, but big deal. If you've got a rat problem in your house, I don't give a damn if the guy who comes over to get rid of the rats is an asshole. Just get rid of the rats. But I didn't pay enough attention to how often he lied. And I really, Zach, weirdly, I didn't necessarily care where he was on issues. I just figured we got to clean this thing up.
He liked his mentality.
But look, I was wrong. And if I could go back in time, and it's weird, I've been publicly naked for the last 7 or 8 or 9 years. I've apologized 1,000 times for helping get him elected. But if I could go back in time, man, I wish I had woken up faster. I'd have voted for Hillary in a heartbeat.
So, I mean, it's really interesting to hear you say this, because I think that a lot of us on the left feel like that was a lot with a lot of people on the right. And my follow-up question, and I think you've kind of answered it, but for a lot of us on the left, the sort of Access Hollywood stuff was, I thought
that's
he
my
was
breaking
done.
point.
I thought he was done. I mean, I didn't like, obviously I've been in Democratic politics forever. I didn't like him, right? But like, it wasn't this visceral, disdain that I have for the man now. But when I heard that clip or saw that clip with Billy Bush, the Democratic strategist in me went, thank God that's going to sink him. And it didn't do anything.
Nope.
Is it just because people just were like, it's sort of like you said, like they were looking for disruptors and the rest of it was just whatever. And like, that's what famous people do. Or was it just, I don't even care?
It's, by the way, that 2016 election was so fucking close. If James Comey doesn't do what he does, yes, Hillary probably wins. If Hillary wakes the fuck up in campaigns in Wisconsin and Pennsylvania, yes, she probably wins.
Yes.
I mean, my God, here's the deal. Trump, I recognized this in 2010. It was the beginning of. Trump recognized it in 16. We have been living in a populist moment for a while. Now, what the fuck does that mean? That just means that average, regular Americans are pissed off at a political system they no longer believe is listening to them.
Yep.
That's the attitude in the country. And so when Republicans tried to run against Trump in 28, like fucking Marco Rubio tried to run on like Morning in America again. What the fuck? People are fucking pissed off. And the Democrats nominated the poster child for the establishment, the anti-populist. I still believe if Bernie's a nominee in 16, Bernie beats Trump.
You think so?
I firmly do. Yeah, Bernie's a populist. Bernie isn't a Republican or a Democrat. It was the beginning of people just saying, fuck it. I'm pissed at both of them. I want something different. Trump, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, do you think Biden would have won?
I don't think so. I think the reason Biden won in 2020 because we were fucking exhausted of 4 years of.
He wanted the old man.
Yeah.
The comforting grandpa.
The comforting grandpa.
Sleep.
Yeah. A little pat on the back. It's going to be fine.
But Trump tapped into this populist moment. Now, he is a populist. He's a fake populist, a faux populist. He's an evil populist. I tend to think populists can be good and or bad. I know a lot of people think populism is a bad thing. I think Democrats got to get, my new party. We need to get fucking over that. But at the time, he was a populist and the Democrats were asleep at the switch. So the average voter out there that's fucking pissed off about real shit, they don't give a damn about that. I can grab them by the you-know-what.
Right.
No, that
makes sense.
That makes sense.
And it feels like it's like today, too. I mean, there's really not much of a difference.
Nobody talks about it. They don't care.
No.
Imagine, guys.
Thing.
Imagine.
People are like, they're cool with it. That like,
they don't care.
This massive cover-up is happening right in front of them.
I was on some TV show yesterday morning and they asked me if Trump were actually the number one guy on Epstein's list, baby. He was on that plane 1,000 times, baby. Would it make a difference? Hell no. Not among his supporters.
We're seeing it right now, right? Because like Pam Bondi said she had the
list on her desk
to this a lot, but like she had the list on her desk and then they came out and said, and JD Vance pushed stuff out about the Epstein list. And then all of a sudden they're like, just kidding. There's no list. And he killed himself. Yeah.
It's a figment of our imagination and a rationalization of our TDS. That's what it is.
Joe, is that like that reaction to that? Did that surprise you? Because I know we saw a few people, but mostly no. It doesn't matter, right?
Because again, but remember my vantage point, Tim. I'm on Fox News and I'm on conservative talk radio, and so my audience, everybody calling in, didn't give a fucking damn. Or these are people going after the guy who's trying to go after the establishment. Right. So it almost strengthened him among his core.
Yeah. It's crazy. Sense. I mean, because there's like literally countless photos of him. I think even Jeffrey Epstein referred to Donald Trump as his best friend at one point. But I think it's true, but you don't hear that, right, in the conservative media sphere, right? You don't get any of that stuff. Like, do people, I guess that's another question for you. Do people hear these things and see them, or because they're so in Fox News and Turning Points USA and all of this garbage that they don't even hear it, or it just doesn't even matter?
His base generally doesn't hear it.
Yeah.
But I found, like, I was out every day last year in a battleground state campaigning for Kamala Harris. How fucking crazy is that, right? Think about that. Just stop, right? But I would hear every day two kinds of Trump voters. The hardcore MAGA, they don't get any of this. Yeah. But there were a lot of Trump voters who said, I call them the I don't care. They said, Joe, I know Trump's an asshole, but. I know Trump's an asshole, but the price of eggs. True. I know Trump's an asshole, but the border. Those people, they hear this stuff, and those people who voted for Trump are reachable. And if my new political party can fucking wake up, those people should be Democratic voters.
Yes, I say that all the time. It really is one of those situations where, like, Democrats, I think Harris's biggest mistake was pivoting to attacking Trump as her primary focus in the campaign, because those voters didn't hear a single thing of value from her, and it could have been converted if come with a set of messages where they went, okay, here's how this is going to get better. We're going to do it like that. It just, that was not their focus. And I think if she had been more focused on financial issues and explaining what she was going to do differently from Biden, so many of those people who said, I don't like Trump, but I'll vote for him anyway, would have voted for her and she would have won.
I agree with Zach. I agree with half of that. They needed to talk about that. But my God, if we've reached a point, and I know the smart political consultants like Axelrod and Rahm Emanuel and all these people, James Carville. Why the fuck is James Carville still out there on TV talking?
I say this all the time. It drives me crazy. And the fact that he won one race in the early 90s in which a third party candidate made it possible. Like, why are we listening to this?
This moment has utterly passed them by. But I still believe if we've reached a point where you can't get people to care about their fucking democracy or the rule of law, then I'm sorry, I'm going to go live in another fucking country. You can talk about the price of eggs and the fact that this bastard tried to overthrow an American election. And if you can't get people to care about both of those, then we're done.
So what do you think is because obviously Democrats tried several tactics on that. Clearly were not successful. What is going to, I mean, obviously like that 30%, that MAGA, like I'm not even talking about them because I just don't even think it's worth it.
Useless.
But that 20%, like how do we communicate with them? Because right now I think our brand is pretty toxic to a lot of them. And so how do we start chipping away at that? Because we won't win elections if we don't bring more people over to our side moving forward, like we saw in November.
And it's easy to say to guys, but like Democrats, to most guys, just regular fucking guys, Democrats are pussies. They're weak. They're out of touch. They're snobs. They don't get it. They look down on me. They laugh at me. Every one of those voters in Pennsylvania, Arizona, Nevada, Wisconsin that I talked to who said, Joe, Trump's an asshole, but they all said, but Democrats are elites who look down on me. Yeah. So right? Democrats have a real issue. They got, and I say this as someone who goes on MSNBC a lot, they got to fucking get out of their MSNBC cocoon and listen to real people with real issues and concerns. But Biden in 2022, the midterm, he went all in on democracy. Remember? Mm-hmm. He went all in and it worked and it staved off a humongous red wave. By 2024, Biden's 150 years old and he can't talk about anything. So I think the die had already been cast. And all these voters who think the system sucks, both parties suck. Well, okay, Trump's an ass, Joe, but look what Biden and the Democrats did. They hid Biden's condition and they didn't have a real election, the primary, blah, blah, blah. So they had a lot of material to work with, too. So I think it was too late by the time you got to Kamala.
I actually agree. I think Kamala's internal polling, which people still haven't heard this message. She was in her internal polling. She was never winning. Like, so when I hear all these people say like the election was stolen, I'm like, first of all, no. Second of all, like her numbers showed her losing. That's why you heard their statements early on election night, which when people start saying, well, we need to like wait and see, that's a sign you're losing, right? You're losing. And they were doing that early. And even before I was like, so like they knew going in. And I think that debate was a killer, but I was surprised at how many people said exactly what you just said. You didn't even have an election, so why should I?
I heard that all the time.
Like it was a real problem.
I can't tell you guys. I got to know Kamala. I don't blame Kamala for losing that election. I fucking blame Joe Biden a lot.
Oh, me too. Joe, 100%.
Look, Donald Trump is a psychopath. He's humanly incapable of acting outside of his own interest. Right. But let's be real. Joe Biden was a selfish old fart who put his own interest ahead of the country. He fucked things badly. And that, again, to all these good, decent people in the middle who are just trying to get by every fucking week, and they look at what's going on and they saw what the Democrats did. They know what Trump is, and they shrug their shoulders and say they're all bad. So I'll at least vote for the guy who's talking about the border.
Yeah, that makes sense. We got Rich here, by the way.
Yeah,
Rich
Rich
late entrant.
What's up,
Rich, you had
guys?
quite a moment to walk into.
Fuckers,
What the
fuckers
hell,
late
Rich?
every
Where you
time.
been?
I didn't hate it. I'm gonna be honest. I didn't hate walking into that. That's set the tone real quick. Fuck everything.
Too much coffee.
Yeah. Well, Rich, we were just talking about. I mean, I don't think we have full agreement on this, but like Joe and I were agreeing that we think Kamala didn't really have she was toast before, and a lot of it was due to obviously Biden's first debate was the most disastrous debate in history. There's no way to spin that as anything but also like he didn't quite say it, but had kind of said he wasn't going to run again, and that was obviously causing problems with people in the middle and the right, and then the whole like you didn't hold a primary to elect afterwards was devastating for folks that maybe we would have potentially been able to grab, but.
I campaigned my butt off for her, but I remember putting out an article 2 days before the election, and I said, the worst thing about Kamala winning, and I want her to win badly because Trump's a threat to everything we care about, but the worst thing about Kamala winning is it will put off the Democrats having to finally address the issues the Democrats have to address.
Yes.
And they've been living in this world where, now I'm a Democrat, we have been living in this world where Trump is so batshit bad and crazy and un-American that Democrats rightly felt like we can win by just saying Trump bad.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. November disproved that.
Yeah, huge mistake. There's no question. I mean, as a new Democrat, how do you feel about the party's, lack of evolution? And like, as somebody who came from the right, just like myself, like, how do you feel about the best path forward probably for Democrats being adopting a more like Bernie Sanders style set of policies? I think that probably is the more resonant with the working class approach. How do you feel about that whole ecosystem that you're coming into?
So this may be a really weird answer from me, a guy who comes in from the right. Mm-hmm. And if you had to label me, I'm a conservative Democrat. I've made a bet that the party will be a big enough tent for a Joe Walsh and an AOC. Maybe I'm wrong. I think it has to be that big of a tent to succeed.
Yeah.
But I am an outsider anti-establishment guy. Mm-hmm. So I want a populist Democratic Party. I want a fucking pissed off at the establishment Democratic Party. Yeah. I don't care necessarily where that attitude comes from. If it comes from Mamdani and the AOC wing, or maybe this is an oxymoron, a charismatic centrist pissed off guy or gal. I just want anti-establishment. What?
Show me that person. I want to see the charismatic.
We fucking need that person.
I vote for that person. I love that.
Well, let's talk. I'm curious, Joe, on the Mamdani thing. So obviously that guy is as far outside of the establishment on the left as you could possibly get. A 33-year-old, maybe 2-term assembly member. I'm not sure. 1-term assembly member, also former rapper at one point, and then comes out with a very, very, very left-leaning populist platform, freezing rents, government-run grocery stores, a whole host of other things. When you saw him take what do you think? Is that the type of person, or is he maybe too left for you? Because he is one of the most charismatic people. AOC the same, right? So where do you stand on Mamdani or a Mamdani-like candidate?
Well, I'd be an absolute fucking hypocrite if I didn't embrace him, because I'm asking him to embrace me as a Democrat.
Right.
Yep. And so,
love that.
And so, look, that's New York City, and he ran a hell of a campaign. We said a little bit ago that we're living in a populist moment, and Republicans demagogue the moment, but Democrats have been AWOL. Well, that election a few weeks ago, that was a populist moment. Democrats are there. So I fully embrace him, and I fully cheer him on, and I fully believe part of what my Democratic Party needs to do is understand that this is a big fucking diverse country. And the Democratic nominee in New York City should not be the same Democratic nominee down in South Carolina. If you want to take on Lindsey Graham, right? You need Southern Democrats and you need good Northeast progressives. So we've got to embrace all of it, but most importantly, embrace the anti-establishment energy. I can't say that enough. There is a unusually high number of people who voted for Mamdani, Trump, and Eric Adams. 3 elections in a row.
Yeah.
There's something going on there.
Well, it's because they, it's easy to be anti-establishment when you're out of power, and I think that's what Democrats have to, just get latched onto here. Is that's if you go back in time, that's how the pendulum swings. It's just based on if you're out of power, then you just get back in power by being like, hey, I'm a change agent.
I love how you characterize that. Progress looks different. I'm in a deep, safe red state. Progress looks different everywhere you are, and I think that's something that the sort of the core Democratic. The people who are policing, I guess, the Democratic messaging and the way that we talk about things have by and large come from increasingly concentrated blue areas. And I think, that's partially out of survival. Those are the places where we're still winning. And so that's where the leaders are coming from.
Rich, that's a great point. That's a great point, Rich. And that's such a dangerous trap the party has fallen into. So there's been talk about me moving to the state of South Carolina because my wife and I fell in love with that state 6 years ago, and being a conservative Democrat taking on Lindsey Graham. I don't know if I'm going to do it, but I do know you can't run a fucking woke lefty progressive against Lindsey Graham down there.
No, get smashed.
So, and the other thing that drives me batty about Democrats, so many of them, is there's this fear to just fucking say what you believe. Don't worry about fucking offending anybody.
Right.
There's a yearning for authenticity. I've never had that problem because I've always just said what I believe. But Democrats are so perfectly consulted when they speak, and America doesn't want that.
Yeah, it's a serious problem. I mean, I think the way I look at it and the challenge that Democrats have is that Democrats are also the party that's embracing marginalized people. So they're trying to protect those people where the right just completely abandons them and says they don't give a shit. So the right doesn't necessarily have the same structural problem.
Playing by different rules.
Right, exactly.
The game is different.
Yeah, completely. So I completely agree with you. I think we need to be dropping all that shit, but we have to understand the potential fallout of how that plays, because we are still going to want to be the party that is respectful to people and inviting people in and trying to be the big tent. But at the same time, we got to be able to not walk on eggshells all the time. It's a very weird balancing act with the right. It's just fuck it. We'll say what we want because we're horrible people. It doesn't fucking matter.
I think it comes back to what we were saying last week, how you don't say we have to protect, so you're running against Lindsey Graham, let's say. You don't go and say we have to protect marginalized people and then have a 15-minute presentation on gender, the gender identity. Right. You say we have to protect marginalized people because they're fucking Americans, full stop. And now let's talk about how talking about 7 NCAA trans women competing in sports out of 500,000 people is a massive catastrophic distraction while we're cutting energy, new energy production. We're cutting, we're fucking over everything that is economically our future, but also all of the people who are contributing to the diverse, population that will be powering our future. So why are we talking about this stupid distraction when we should be talking about something that's really important?
Bingo. And as someone who used to be a culture war warrior from the right, who would fucking tag Democrats with, they all want to defund the police. Like when there was one school in Northern California that one Christmas said, you can't sing Silent Night at a Christmas pageant. Tucker Carlson, we'd all go on our shows the next day and say, Democrats don't want any religious songs across America on Christmas.
War on Christmas, right?
Bingo.
That's why we say happy holidays. Yeah,
exactly.
Which, by the way, pisses me off. Happy holidays. But we're not going to get into that right now. But we knew, all of us on the right knew, that Democrats would never fight us on this culture war stuff.
Yep.
Right.
And I think that's a big fucking mistake because most Americans are with Democrats on all these culture war issues. Rich, you just nailed it. Most Americans believe our transgender brothers and sisters, God love you, we embrace you, live your life, live your truth. You get the same damn rights that any American gets. You should be able to serve in the military, gay, straight, lesbian, doesn't matter to me. And when it comes to transgender women in sports, let's just make sure the competition's fair. Bathrooms and locker rooms, let's respect everybody's privacy. Boom, right there. is where 80% of America is on transgender Americans.
Yes.
But Democrats, for some reason, are afraid to even say what I just said.
Oh, yeah. I don't know why, too. There's nothing controversial about it.
No.
At least in my mind.
I think they're afraid of getting into the specifics of it, and they don't feel like it's a winner. I mean, look, like the most effective ad that we've talked about a long time last year was Trump's ad about I'm for you and she's for they, them. Yep. And even though like it's a completely absurd, it worked. And we didn't say the thing that you just said, Joe, which is basically like we respect everybody's right to exist. I mean, actually, John Fetterman, who I'm not super happy with at the moment, but like said, basically, who cares? This is a stupid topic. I'm not this is ridiculous. Yeah. And it worked. No one bothered him with it again. We just have to stand up and say enough. And then people kind of go, oh.
Timmy, it worked because, again, the perfectly over-consulted and overly polled Democratic Kamala Harris campaign said, don't even get into it. Fuck that. Punch back on that issue. Yeah. It's like the border. Look, most Americans, if you're in this country illegally and you got a violent criminal record, get the hell out. But 100%. What Trump is doing now is utterly cruel and un-American. So Democrats, engage on that issue because most Americans are with you.
Yes. That was one of the critical things. It was like Kamala Harris just was incapable of keeping herself from like Biden's history. So she couldn't come out and be like, well, we fucked up on the border. We got to jump in and do X, Y, because it made Biden look like an asshole. But if she had done that, people would have forgotten about the old guy and gone, I like this lady. She's not full of shit. She's coming with some straight talk. Didn't do that. And it's the same shit across the trans issue. Like across the board, she just like stayed away from all this territory and became very risk averse. And I do believe, going 20 minutes back, I do think she could have won if she had embraced that kind of mentality. Okay. I think a ton of people would have been like, ooh, look at this.
Zach, I'll buy you a bottle of tequila because that's my booze. If Kamala Harris had sounded like me for 3 months, I think she had a fighting chance.
Yes,
honestly.
I agree. I agree.
But like we look, Joe Biden legislatively had a hugely successful first 4 years.
Yes.
Joe Biden
one of the best
was
in modern American history.
Done. But the bully pulpit is like 70% of a president's job. And for 4 years, we had a president who was incapable of using it. So, I mean, we had the strongest fucking economy post-COVID in the post-industrialized world. Our 100%. President couldn't even talk to that. So like, and Republicans then filled that void. Eggs are $3,000 a dozen. and they're doing this every fucking day. So again, by the time Kamala got there,
she was dealt a terrible hand to play. It's like, here, you got deuces and go and win. Go and win the
Zach,
pot.
you're right, by the way. Her only play, Zach, was to go bananas.
Yes, her only play was to come out and be like, fuck it. I'm my own person. I have ideas. We made some mistakes. We'll fix them. Like, she didn't do any of that. And it really was such a mistake.
Joe, I'm curious about because there's been a lot of debate on the Democratic side about the weird angle of attack that they were using, that she and Governor Walsh were using. Yeah. And then they stopped. Do you think that was an effective attack, or do you think that because to me it seemed like it was working and then they stopped and it seemed like all of our momentum kind of stopped? But I also just love hearing it because I do think they're weird. But
I'm going to preface by saying I think you four guys are smarter than me, so I want to hear what you say about weird. To me, it was weird. To me, weird was weird. I didn't get it. I didn't understand it. And then, truthfully, by the time Walsh got out there, like when she first picked Walsh, I thought, this is cool. Fucking Midwest guy, football guy, he can hunt, blah. But then Walsh gets out there, and you know what? Walsh came across as weird. I mean, Tim Walsh he didn't come across as a real tough guy. Maybe they didn't use him right. I didn't understand the weird. I would have just said wrong. This isn't fucking who we are. This is un-American. This is not who we are. I didn't get weird.
Yeah, I kind of understood it.
You have a better than fourth grade reading level, though, right, Joe?
I mean, that's like the worst. That's the worst insult to a fourth grader is you're weird.
It is.
And I think it worked really well because of the shit that they're like insanely laser focused on, right? Like you're weird for thinking about everybody else's fucking private parts. You're weird, dog.
Well, and they're hyper focused on this idea of like peak masculinity, and they're all alphas, and it's like, dude, you guys are all betas. But anyway, they
totally agree.
They
Rich.
all want to be that thing, and that thing is normal, if nothing else. Like, we are the healthy, straight, white, ripped,
common sense,
rich, common sense. Like, we are the pure blood American people. And if you're like, you guys are fucking weirdos, they're like, woo, and when it blows up their whole.
And every time they tried to like combat it, they just fed into it more. Like they could never get it fucking. They could never get it out of their mouths without beating, like without feeding into the allegation.
You know, for us, obviously, like, it all makes sense to us, right? But like, did we win a single vote? No. By calling them weird, right?
That's what I was going to say. Is I think that it was tailored to people who were already going to vote for Kamala Harris. Like, it wasn't like, it just made people who were on the fence about it feel like attacked. Like, whoa, you think I'm weird? Like, what is it getting you other than like, it's just changing the narrative amongst the people who are already going to vote for Harris.
And it is just, I mean, it's just another version of an insult. I mean, I think the better thing is, I liked weird because zealots and sycophants and fascists, those are fucking college professor words. Like, those are words that educated people use when they're talking in the teacher's lounge about their naughty students and like their flunky students. But it's the flunky students who outnumber the fucking the professors, and they're the ones still going to the ballot box. You can't just say you are a sycophant or you are all zealots, and so don't vote. Right? Even cultists, and because they'll still just go vote. So you have to find a way to either, like, I mean, I don't think insulting people is a great way to get them off the fence in your favor, but finding a way to use common language to connect with those people, I think, was maybe half the battle. And then you have the other half and you reconnect it to economics as quickly as possible, because it's still the fucking economy.
I think weird was a little too cute.
Yeah, it was. It was tongue in cheek, like they were having too much fun with it.
Yeah, I think Democrats, like with some of this culture war shit, they were afraid to just call it out for what it is. These guys are fucking pussies. If you lie to me every time you open your mouth, there's nothing fucking manly about that. Right. If you cheat, if you commit adultery, if I can't trust you, if you're the exact opposite of how I would fucking raise my kids, you're no man. You're a fucking pussy. If you lie about they're eating cats and dogs, you go after people like this who are just here for a better fucking life. You're a fucking pussy and a coward. Yep. Now, maybe not that language, guys, though I would use that language. I would use that language, but fucking call them out for, because I come from that world. They live on the fact. And I talk to MAGA folk every day, like they're tough and blah, blah. Bullshit. I will say respectfully to them, you're pussies. Donald Trump cheats on every one of his wives. Is that a manly thing to do? Fuck you.
Well, he's also the biggest baby on earth too, right?
They're
like
so sensitive.
The second there's a mild like critique of him, he like loses his mind. I saw he got all mad about the Epstein thing the other day, and like,
any
why
are you even asking about this?
Yeah.
Give me the Democrat though, who will talk like this instead of talking like a professor or the head of a committee with a 30-page PowerPoint. Yeah. No, just fucking say what it is.
So speaking of that, are there people that you see on our side? I mean, you're obviously you.
I'm on your side now too.
So there's one. Like, and I think Fetterman does it a little bit, but like, there's also a whole bunch of stuff going on there. But like, what are there other examples of people, or are these people that are yet to come and step forward?
Coming from Washington, like I do, former congressman, I am loath to look at Washington for this kind of a tough, populist, real fucking voice. I don't know who that is. I haven't heard it yet, Tim. I haven't heard this kind of a voice yet.
I gotta say, I was almost completely out on Newsom for the bulk of the last, I mean, all the way back to Biden may or may not leaving the race. I thought, certainly on paper, Newsom is a person who you want to be excited for as a Democrat, coming from the fourth largest economy in the world. And he runs the most diverse state in the country. Like, on paper, he has all of the arguments to make. And now like, oh, it's a California liberal. Fuck that. California is better run. They have problems at scale because they are a fucking nation on their own. Yeah, they are a nation on their own. They have problems at scale, just like Florida and the bath salt face eating guy, and just like Texas and their flood disasters. All big states have issues. I think that's something you fight back on. You don't say, well, we'll be a president for all of Americans. But I was out on him because when he came out with his podcast and everything like that, it was just like, what the fuck? Or like, it was the most transparently political approach to, I'm going to run in 3.5 years. Right. Mm-hmm. But now with the ICE raids and this shit where they were just sweeping the park like it was a fucking minefield full of, it's absolute insanity. And I think that Gavin has figured out, I need to be a fighter on behalf. Like, he's not using the language that you use, Joe, but but that's also, I mean, he was the mayor of San Francisco. But I feel like for a guy who was the mayor of San Francisco and came from that area, he has maintained his I think his loyalty to the values, but he has changed how he presents himself as a leader in a way that I'm starting to look at him more and more and think like, is this a show, or is he the fighter? Does he have that fighter in him who can come and just say, we got to burn down all the shit that Trump did, like immediately, and we have to rebuild a whole bunch of new things to make up for all the damage he did and get us right on back on the right track if we're going to compete in a world with India and China and EU driving the future and not the United States.
So there's a possibility with him, but again, I go back to this word authenticity.
Yeah.
That's fucking it. That's gold.
Yeah.
And he's got an authenticity problem.
Yeah.
And
definitely.
he has to prove that this is real, because Gavin has a history of boom, right?
Not just the moment that he's capitalizing on.
So
he's kind of swinging around from thing to thing.
Yeah, he's got a hurdle he's got to jump over. But
I got a guy, I'm curious what you think about him, because he's not a politician. I've liked him from the jump, but he doesn't want to run for president so far. But Mark Cuban is the guy that always jumps out to me. I know he's not like, whatever.
I'd rather have Jon Stewart.
Maybe but Jon Stewart, I don't know. Mark Cuban, the difference to me is that a lot of people in the middle are going to look at somebody like Mark Cuban and go, oh, he's the good version of Donald Trump. He's a self-made billionaire. He's got a billion different companies. He understands how the dynamics of the market work. And he's a straight shooter and tell you exactly to your face what the fuck he thinks and what he doesn't think. He's not going to lie to you. That to me is a great combination. Yeah, he's not a politician, whatever. I think that's actually a plus. I don't know. I look at him and I go, to me, he sort of fits that mold of like, as long as he brings progressive policies with him, the delivery could be great.
I think being an outsider is a really good thing.
Yes.
I spoke with Cuban at an event about a month ago, and he just pissed me off. He got up before I did, and he spent a half hour telling this audience of 2,000 people, quit criticizing Trump and tell us what you're going to do. Outsell Trump. Quit talking about he's a threat to democracy and the rule of law. This was like 2 months into Doge. And he's telling this audience, just be a better salesman than Trump.
That's not great.
No, but I
agree with him, though. I mean, I really do. But I know it's not the right message at the time, but I do agree with this.
But 2 months into Doge, you can't buy anything from Democrats 2 months into Doge. So that's a very poorly timed sales pitch.
Yes. Poorly timed. Yeah. But correct in the long
Jack,
term.
To your point, a guy, maybe Cuban, or a guy like Cuban, again, if authentic, could have real possibility.
Yeah.
I'm thinking George Soros. I mean, what better way to stick it to MAGA than to take, I don't even know what the guy looks like, but these guys, they fall asleep thinking about George Soros and trans women playing in sports. That's all they think about. That's been there like 20 years. That would be great. Like George Soros and then like a trans volleyball player VP. As vice president. Yeah, exactly.
I'll tell you what, guys, when I was in the midst of my right-wing radio days, when I was in a blasé mood midweek and ratings really weren't great and I needed to pick shit up, I right away would go to Soros.
Just straight to Soros.
I right away would just say that name out loud on the radio.
It's so funny because the right has like for us. Right? But it's like the right has like 50 Soros, and they just because we don't have as many billionaires. There's the anti-Semitism part of it too. But but I want to, Joe. So
by the way, this is Tim. One important point that. And as I'm only a Democrat now for a month, as I talk to Democrats, this is a big part of what I talk about. the inside baseball is, in private, with my fellow Republicans for years, in private, we would talk about and laugh about how the Democrats would never fight to the death politically.
Yeah.
And we always knew we would.
Right.
And we knew the Democrats would.
We're getting there.
Keep talking. We have to fucking disprove that. You're right, to these Republicans.
I like what Luke said a couple of weeks ago. You said, you go far enough left, you get your gun back.
Yep.
Oh, I love that. I love that. I love that.
Well, Luke, I'm curious. I want to hear from you as our resident Gen Zer. Like, is this what younger people are looking for in a candidate, a fighter? Like, I'm just curious from they want to see somebody.
He's 100% right. That's what they want. They don't want fucking stale scripted shit. They don't want that.
Yeah. Sorry, Luke, and then you should ask your question. Do you think a lot of these people, the young people who voted for Trump, are gettable in 2026
I don't think they and like half of them don't even really know what they fucking voted for. And like, I've talked to some of them. They're like, I can't believe all the shit that's going on. And it's like, some of us who are paying attention knew this was coming. Like, that's kind of why I was so fucking vocal before it. But,
Dude, my first election, I was 18. I had just turned 18. I voted for Ralph Nader in 2000 because somebody from the Green Party. It's a deep red state. It didn't matter. If I was in Florida, then you could, throw me to the put me in alligator.
You'd be off the pod.
Put me in alligator Alcatraz. But I voted for him because somebody from the Green Party came and spoke at my high school, and they used the expression Republicrats. And I remember thinking, oh my God, that is the most clever, brilliant, harsh burn on the system that I had ever heard. I'm voting for Ralph Nader. And then like a month later after the election, I was like, oh, fuck.
Whoops.
Never making that mistake again. So yes, to your point, kids are just fucking doing kid shit. And it's like, I like the guy who swears a lot and is an asshole. And
I do a lot of talking on college campuses. And all of last year, I would go on college campuses and I'd get a group of 200 college kids and I'd say, look, Donald Trump is a fucking threat to our democracy and the rule of law. And I'd explain why and show them how. And they would just roll their fucking eyes and they'd say, Joe, love you, man. But they're all fucked up. And Biden's old. The Democrats suck. So in their mind, the whole thing is fucked up. And they are more inclined, young people, to laugh at Trump, whereas I view him as a threat. And there are a lot of young people who told me, Joe, the system sucks. I know he's a fucking bad dude. Let him go in there and just bottom out the whole system.
Yeah.
Well, that's what Republicans have spent 40 years doing is saying all of this is Curtis Yarvin, like textbook, playbook, all of the big institutions that run the country, the journalists, academics, and the insider politicians, they're all destroying everything. It creates so much cynicism. I mean, you don't have to go far. I could click into any social media site and see somebody saying, burn it down, fucking throw everybody out. It's like, dude, we have a $30 trillion economy. We're still 30% some odd ahead of China as in the number 2 role. And you are so either clueless or just nihilist that you're saying you want to destroy everything and reset. But that's where they got us. That's where right-wing media has gotten us. And that's what Trump capitalized on.
I agree, Rich, with a lot of that. Right-wing media jumped on that. Thank you very much. I did. But these institutions, God love them and preserve them, and they're important. But generally, academia, media, go on, generally are center left. I mean, the only reason Fox News became a thing so many years ago is because most of the media was center left, and people center right and right needed a voice. So the left needs to recognize that. But again, just recognize how disconnected regular fucking people feel from their politics.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's one of the biggest issues, right? Is that, like, Rich, you made everything you said was right, except like for that 21-year-old in, Ohio that doesn't have a job and maybe has a crippling addiction is like, I don't give a shit about any of this stuff you're talking about. And all I'm hearing about is bathrooms and, whatever is a problem. But with that, Joe, you said everything was on the table for talking here, so I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit. You mentioned...
Fuck you, Tim. What are you going to ask?
God damn it, Tim.
I'm not backing down.
We're never going to get a guest again. No, we're never going to get someone joining the show again.
Yeah, it's over.
Joe's our last guest.
All right. So Joe on the I don't know if this was news, if you said this before, but Joe said that, there's a possibility that he may be going to South Carolina to challenge Lindsey Graham. So I want to workshop that a little bit because you are clearly talking about a path forward to win in some of these places that we haven't. If, let's just say hypothetically, you jump in. What is your line of attack against Lindsey Graham and convincing 65% of South Carolinians who voted for him last time should vote for you?
And again, I'll never bullshit and I'll never run from a question. I've been encouraged to think about it. I'm thinking about it.
Yep.
Fuck you, Tim. Look. I'm old enough. Luke, you're all. Everybody here is younger than me. When I was in high school and college, there was this unique animal called the Southern Democrat.
Yeah.
Yep.
A Democrat who was pro-gun and a little bit more conservative than the Democrat you find in my home state of Illinois. There's part of me that thought it's worth fighting the fight against Lindsey as a conservative Dem, if only to help show my new party how to fucking fight on this stuff. Yeah. I don't know if I'll do it, Tim, but what a gas for if I could run it. You talk about everything that's fucking wrong in our politics with one guy, Lindsey Graham.
Oh my God.
What a puss he is.
Dude, talking out of both sides of his mouth, like just the
fucking worst.
Just the contrast of you and how you present your message and how Lindsey Graham finds a way to be wrong on every single thing. Even if he wasn't wrong in the past on that thing, he finds his way to being wrong. It would be a magical
Rich,
campaign.
I have a handful of wet dreams. One of my wet dreams is
Don't say Lindsey Graham. Don't say Lindsey Graham.
No, not Lindsey. But it's connected to Lindsey. One of my wet dreams is that John McCain comes back with us for 24 hours.
Oh man.
and I fly him into South Carolina and he just beats the hell out of Lindsey. Like, what the hell happened? He slaps Lindsey upside the head.
That's the UFC fight we need on the White House grounds, like in front of the White House. I want to see that fight. Zombie McCain versus real life Lindsey.
To your point, I'm a Democrat who's a big pro-gun guy. I'm a Democrat who is a defend the border guy. But I'm a Democrat who's like reasonable and let's find common ground. And what we're doing now with people, what Trump's doing now is utterly un-American. I still believe most Republicans in South Carolina don't believe we should be scooping up pregnant women up off the streets. Right. So I'd go at Lindsey from a principled, woke, conservative perspective. And my base has always been white rural folk. Those are the folk that sent me to Congress and listened to me on the radio for years. That's who I'd talk to in a state like South Carolina.
I just saw a stat the other day. There's a YouGov Yahoo poll, and they're probably both. Hey, who knows who? I looked at the methodology; it looked fine. I think it said 62% of Americans support a legal pathway to citizenship for undocumented immigrants who are in the United States who have not committed any additional crime or any other crime other than just being here without documents.
Amen.
This is after like 50 years of these fuckers, just racist attack after racist attack, lies and demonize. And the strong majority of Americans still can look at these individuals and say, is all you did, you overstayed your visa? Like, that is a argument to go to war over because it's part of our country. I mean, the birthright, citizenship, he's stacking up everything in our favor. And I still haven't heard a single politician who just goes and says, fuck off with the attacks on immigrants. Fuck off.
Rich,
all of my favorite people are immigrants.
Rich, if I'm with you right now, I'm fucking hugging and kissing you. Amen. Amen. I think this fucking issue alone it should bite Republicans and Trump in the ass in 26, because this is not who we are. Mm-hmm. Defend the border, but we don't do this. This is cruel. This is not who we are. And this is not what most Americans want. There's a huge opening for Democrats.
Yes. And you're watching it too. Like you're watching, physically watching people get hurt by it's so different from like economic arguments over. It's like you're watching people get dragged to the fucking street into a car by masked dudes
with no
that doesn't feel like
identification.
America. Right.
American citizens too.
Yeah. The mask shit is so fucked up. And you could even see Trump, he knew this was going to happen. And that's why as the election was happening and in the aftermath of the election, every big exit poll that was conducted said 15-point, 20-point margin on the economy is the number one issue over everything else. It was always the number one issue. And yet Trump, all through the election and after the election, especially starting in about October, he was saying Americans voted for me for mass deportations and over immigration. Yes. That's why they put me in office. And you can look at all the polls and say, no, they fucking didn't, man. They literally didn't. And they're telling you they didn't. Your people are saying that is not why they voted for you, like A1 priority.
You're doing it because you like it.
You're doing it because you like it and because you can't
you suck at the economy.
Exactly. You can't do anything to fix the economy. And so you understand you have to hard pivot to somewhere you can win, which is, racism.
I have a fear. I have a dream. I have a fear that because Trump has been so bad these first 6 months, and I've heard Democrats privately talk about this, they believe we can take back the House kind of by just saying, look at Trump, he's bad again. I have a fear that Democrats are going to fall back into that stance. Yes. Instead of
the
Rich
threat to democracy.
Saying what you're saying. Well, and/or fuck this.
Yeah,
we do not put military in fucking big parks in American cities where children are playing. We don't do that shit.
Yep.
Yeah.
I want to hear that.
I want to hear that.
I would also like to hear that.
Luke, I hear it every time I turn your videos on.
Yeah, that's normally what I do.
Yeah.
We need to keep that energy and we need to turn it into more than just, hey, the pendulum swung back and we took the midterms. Look at what we did. Fuck that. The minority party has done that for 50 years. Every midterm election after somebody's elected, except for, I think, 2018. The party in power, or 2022, the party in power loses seats. We will get some amount of that. So, let's just the tide will come in, the tide will go out. Yeah. We have to not see that as a validation of, tepid politics. No. We have to actually triple down on that and say we need a filibuster proof majority in the Senate. That's what I fucking want. And we also need a 2/3 vote in the House so we could actually maybe pass some fucking amendments that would make it so that none of the shit that Trump has done for the past, really 10 years could ever be done again. But will we go that hard? I already know we won't, but we'll get, we'll probably get halfway there and then we'll say, look, and then it'll just be back to politics as usual.
Right. And Rich, that's my fear. And then you're looking at a President J.D. Vance in 28, because just if there's one thing I want everyone listening to us to understand, coming from MAGA like I do, this thing is bigger than Trump. And Trump could be gone in 2 years. MAGA now is the Republican Party.
100%.
And they've got smart thinkers and talkers and leaders who will represent MAGA. So it's here to stay.
I agree. And I think everybody is right that we can probably fall over ourselves into taking back the House by a few seats. Yeah. But I don't want that. I want a 50-seat majority, or at least I want us to fight for that. And we can't do that if we just say, basically, our message is return to normalcy, which makes me want to tear my hair out. Oh my God. Because the reality is that the government was broken before. Like, I worked in the government for 5 years. And actually, Joe, I was probably in the Obama administration when you were in Congress.
Yeah, you were too.
And I was. And I saw a lot of broken shit there. And we don't address it. And never. I think this is probably even more important for the presidential candidate that will succeed for 2028 is a vision for a different country that has the same values, but that we operate differently. The government is bureaucratic. It is too slow. The hiring processes are totally fucked up. And I think Democrats could just steal this from Republicans. And that's the populist message that we're talking about. It's I don't want to return to normalcy. I want to return to something better, because we were not in a good place as a country when Joe Biden was president. We weren't. And we're never going to get by this unless the Democrats actually put forward an agenda that really does work for everybody, because right now we don't have it.
Give me a Give me a common sense, centrist, decent, tolerant, get shit done platform. Yep. Give me that. And give me a populist who can talk to that. But if I have to settle for a populist on the far left, I'm all in too.
Yeah. Well, the far left is centered though, because it's economy. Like you look at far left everywhere. It's about jobs. It's about income. It's about production. It's about taking care of your people. We just need to we just need to casually scooch out the racist, like isolationist part of populism that usually comes along for the ride. Like, yes, we need to protect our jobs. And that means keeping brown people out of the country. No, that's not what that means.
Not that part.
It means huge, massive investments in infrastructure and in job creation and manufacturing, new technologies like green energy. I don't even want to call it green energy or alternative energy or renewable energy. We need to just call it energy, new energy, future energy. Like there's room to do that. And we're going to have to do that if we're going to compete with China.
Mm-hmm. I got elected in 2010 because Democrats, Tim, everybody knows, passed Obamacare.
Yep.
And when Democrats passed Obamacare in 2009, Democrats knew that bill was going to beat them up politically in 2010. I'll tell you what, guys, Republicans privately know that this big ugly bill should beat them up next year. The difference is, Tim, you know this, when Democrats passed Obamacare, even though they knew it'd kill them politically, they believed in the bill.
Right.
Yes.
Privately, most Republicans think this is a bad bill. And so, my God, Democrats, we've been handed another fucking gift. Yeah. Let's drive it home.
Yeah. Well, Joe, I'm going to ask you one more question. We're at the hour mark, and I told you we'd do an hour. But is there a candidate out there for 2028 that, like, no, obviously no one's announced, but is there somebody that, like, at least piques your interest as who may jump in for 2028? Or are we still...
Tim, that's such a great question, and I'm sorry that I'm not going to give you a name because I don't see him or her.
Yep.
I know the moment we're in. I know where regular people are, and I, as of yet, do not see a Democrat meeting this moment. I just don't.
I actually agree. I'm not sure. I mean, there's a bunch of candidates that I think are good, but I don't know if at this point in 2007, if we knew that or 2006, we weren't really, so like, I think there could be somebody comes that we don't even know about. So
Tim, just to bring us home. We can't end the podcast without calling this out because we sold like more merch, I think, after our last episode than we've sold.
Rich's endorsement is way better than Tim's.
Maybe ever. But
definitely
in the process. So we're thinking, like, if we're going to have podcast merch that has slogans on it, like if it says like, I got fucked on the Find Out podcast or whatever, like Luke's,
maybe not bad.
And mine is like, oh, that's fucking
we need
rich.
to workshop that.
Mine's like, oh, that's fucking rich. Tim's was going to be, hey everybody, and
because I say that at the beginning of every one.
And Tim felt like that wasn't good enough, and so fuck you, Timmy. That is fuck you, Timmy.
Fuck you, Timmy.
I think Joe gave you your slogan. Like, I think.
Well, you know what? Like, if we talked about me going back in time 15 years ago, honestly, if we went back in time 15 years ago and said Joe Walsh will tell you to fuck off twice, I'd be like, I would believe it. And I would believe it. I would think you'd be negative rather than in jest. But no, maybe that is it. Okay, I'll take it.
I like it. Fuck this. That's my slogan. Fuck this. This is not who we are. Fuck this.
It is not. It is not. Well, Joe, thank you.
You guys have been great. This is a lot of fun. Tim, you told me this wouldn't be fun.
Oh, I did not say that. Oh, fuck you, Joe.
Off, Timmy.
Joe, it has been, first of all, I want to say, like, when I think we kind of met a little bit on Twitter at first. And I remember one of our friends, Cliff, I reached out to him because I was like, is this guy for real? Like, this is a big change. And he told me, he's like, talk to Joe and you'll see. And I think over the past few years, like, your turn of heart has been genuine. And I know that, like, some people in the Democratic Party have not welcomed you. And I would just say to everybody listening, like, Joe, you're the real deal. You have made amends, and, like, you have done what we would have wanted so many Republican officials to do. And really, you're the only one. Right. And, I just wanted to say how much I appreciate it because it is so important. And you tossed your livelihood down the drain to stand up for what's right. And I just wish there were more of you on the right than just you.
Then give me this final word, Tim Fulch, because I mean this, no shitting around. You very early on stood by me. And look, I know I've had to prove myself, right? Obviously, from the Tea Party to the Democratic Party, that's a big fucking change. But you stood there. I remember when I turned against Trump 7 years ago, publicly, I looked behind me thinking a bunch of Republicans are going to follow me. Nobody did. So I became a Democrat a month ago. I'm going to work my ass off to get other Republicans to join me, because it makes no sense to stay in this no man's, never Trump independent lane.
Right.
We've got to be Democrats now to defeat what that thing is.
Yeah.
And we got to let you guys in.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep. Yeah.
That's the other piece. And that's where, like, I think a lot of our job is to hold the door open for you and welcome you in, because we need everybody. The math doesn't work anyway. Other way. And,
Tim, Rich, Zach, Luke, if you guys don't have fucking tequila in the room, I'm not coming in. I'm not going to.
I think I got mezcal and añejo over on my cart.
I've got some at home. I've got some, so you're always welcome. So, Joe, thank you very much. Also, everybody should go subscribe to Joe's Substack, The Social Contract, right? I got that right?
You got it right.
The Social Contract on Substack. Please do that. And thank you again, Joe. Also got to put our pitch out for our merchandise. If you want to get some, go to findoutpodcast.com. And if you want to subscribe to our Substack, findoutpodcast.substack.com. Thank you, Joe. Thank you, everybody. Guys. We'll be back next week. Have a great weekend, everybody.